Perfect. Alrighty, well, welcome everyone to today's WorkSmart Live Basic Apps Training, which is part one of our two-part Office 365 Basics training. Again, I'm Dawn Church. I'm WorkSmart's events manager, and I have to say I'm pretty excited about today's episode and the remote office series. We've gotten a ton of requests for everyday user-friendly content specifically on how you stay productive and keep your teams connected and able to collaborate from wherever they happen to be, especially with some tools that are already available in your Office 365 subscription. Or maybe they are, maybe they're not. We're going to talk about a couple of different things around subscriptions today, but tools that you should have readily at hand. So all of that is exactly what we're going to do today. And as a side note, right after we launched this webinar, Microsoft delightfully renamed Office 365 to Microsoft 365. So you'll probably hear us refer to this in both different ways today, but I just wanted to let you know that it's the same thing. So I'd also love to introduce you to the person who's going to lead this training, and that is the fabulous Marissa Wayman, who's WorkSmart's marketing manager. Do you want to say hi?
Well, hello, everybody.
So Marissa is a long-time WorkSmart veteran. She's been with us for 11 years now, and she has held a lot of different seats in that time. So what that means is that she's used these tools and apps that we're going to go over today to manage projects and teams and clients who all have very different workloads and workflows. So she really knows how to get the most out of these tools. And now as marketing manager, she and I collaborate quite a lot. So today you're actually going to get a glimpse into our work relationship as she takes us through like a demo version of our planning process for this event. And you're going to see in real time how we stay connected and able to work together efficiently with some pretty basic Office 365, Microsoft 365 tools. Even though we're not able to just yell at each other from across the room, which is what we used to do a lot. So, alrighty. So with that, Marissa, you can just take it away.
Awesome. All right. Dawn, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen. You're good.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. So as Dawn mentioned, Office 365 is now Microsoft 365. So just caveat, when we talk about it throughout here, you'll see the reference of Microsoft 365. But I like to consider myself an Office 365 or a Microsoft 365 user by choice. And, as a Microsoft reseller, of course, we have the opportunity to play around with these tools. But as a user, I've had the opportunity to learn a little bit more. It's so invaluable how the suite works together. And so that's a little bit about what we want to take you through today. So just to give you a really nice overview, I'm going to lean on my slide deck here before I jump into the demo. But Microsoft 365 is built on a platform of apps and services. And so what we're going to talk about today is a little bit of their cloud services. And so when you look here at the Microsoft 365 apps, you'll see some different categories. We've got Office applications, which you're probably all very familiar with. Whether your plan comes with Access or Publish or not, difference in subscriptions. But then we've got some video and presentation software. This is where people start to become a little less familiar, but we've got Video and Stream and Sway. Video is actually being replaced by Stream, which is Microsoft's enterprise video platform. So you can actually pretend like video doesn't exist and go straight to Stream. Sway is like a lightweight PowerPoint. It's great for newsletters and visually displaying content without needing to be a designer. So there's a lot of really cool templates that are already built and kind of style and themes that you can apply easily. Right below that, we've got some business applications. We're definitely not going to talk a lot about these today. I will mention some things about Power Automate, which is a rebranding of Flow. So if you're familiar with Flow at all, that is what that is. And so I'll touch on it a little bit more. Microsoft Forms, think of this as like a Google Forms or a Survey Gizmo. It's a neat web tool for building forms and surveys. And of course, it's part of the Office 365 suite or the Microsoft 365 suite, which means it integrates across the board. So let's say you want to post a training video in Stream, you can actually embed a Microsoft form to make it interactive. So you can collect some data, or maybe you want to quiz people off of it and collect their answers. You can do that, which is kind of the neat thing about all of these applications, that they nest inside of each other, which again, we'll talk about today. Applications for small business. Bookings is one that's neat. It's included with your subscriptions, and it's scheduling tool. It's basically give your customers a way to schedule with your team, with your calendar. So if you're used to maintaining one calendar to manage all of your client appointments, this is a way for them to be able to interact with that. So making it a little bit easier for you to work. Up on the top right, we've got our enterprise and team collaboration. So we've got our things like SharePoint and Yammer. Yammer, I have to stop for a second. This is an application that is dear to my heart, and Microsoft bought it about, it's about 10 years now, a little bit over 10 years, for like $1 billion. They really wanted to corner the social networking for business. Unfortunately, Yammer hasn't taken off yet. What I'm so passionate about is that I think that with a little bit of rebranding, which in 2020, Microsoft has announced that they are going to bring in more of a Teams feel for it, but they're going to start to shift your team collaboration from your group chats and your work conversation in Teams and move kind of more your general conversations, your social networking, Q&A sections. They're going to try to push that towards Yammer. So we haven't heard the end of Yammer, so stay tuned. But today, we won't talk about any of these, the Skype for Business, the Yammer, the SharePoint, or the Microsoft Teams. Next week, we'll talk a little bit more about SharePoint Online and Microsoft Teams. Skype for Business is being replaced by Teams as well, so you kind of X that one. OneDrive is storage. And it actually is grown off of a SharePoint backend, and it integrates very nicely with Teams. We'll show that again next week, but we'll dive into OneDrive today to kind of show you the ways that you can share files, especially within some of the other tools. Your emailing and your calendaring. A lot of people are very familiar with these. You've got your Outlook, your calendar, even your people. In Microsoft 365, there's an app so that you can get to each component of Outlook on its own. So if you wanted to look up your employees, you could do so in the people section, or if you wanted to go straight to tasks, you'll see in task and project management, there's an icon for tasks. That's essentially the extension of Outlook tasks, if you're familiar with those. And then here's one that we're gonna talk a little bit more about, which is Planner. It uses a similar method to the Kanban method. So it's, if you're familiar with Trello, it uses cards to organize your work. So we'll go through those. But what I wanted to call out here is that Microsoft is really focusing on productivity and the whole suite of applications. And so we're seeing a rise in the amount of apps that they're tackling with this task and project management. So we've, long-term, we've had project subscriptions. And then we have the project online subscriptions, which adds in that online component to more robust project software. But for a lot of small businesses, that additional subscription isn't necessary. And so what Microsoft has done is kind of built upon their tasks idea, and they built out Planner. And Planner is really good for small businesses. It's included in the Office 365 plans to be able to organize your workflow or project. So the whole kind of premise of this conversation today is to demonstrate to you how someone can collaborate, so Dawn and I, how we can collaborate together on a project, which will set up essentially our event for today, how we use Planner to manage that work, and then how we use some of the other applications like OneDrive and Stream and OneNote to really fuel that Planner. And then what I'm really excited about is the next week, what we'll do is we'll bring it to Teams, and we'll bring all of those components inside of Teams and build on for it to be your central hub, and then all of the other cool things that Teams does, like calling and video.
Hey, Marissa.
Yeah.
So on the note of Teams, we did have one, and I'm bringing this up now just to like acknowledge it. We did have one question that came in already actually about Teams setup and how to best roll that out, and best practices for setting up channels and teams and groups within Teams. So I wanted to just verbally note, we're not going to go super into the like admin side of these things today or next week, because we're really going to focus on everyday user use cases. However, we actually did a webinar like totally on that topic specifically a couple weeks ago. So I already sent the recording of that to the person who asked the question. But if anybody else is interested in that kind of information, let me know, just chat me and I will send you that link as well. But we will go into Teams a little bit more next week.
Absolutely. We really felt passionate about having Microsoft Teams as its own session, so that we can essentially concentrate and give everybody a nice overview of how the tools work together on their own, and then how you can integrate them within Teams and all of the additional functionality. Before I hop into the demo, I wanted to, since we're rolling on announcements, and the first announcement is, surprise, Office 365 is now Microsoft 365. I also want to kind of build on the task and project management with Microsoft Lists. This is something that has just been announced to the public. And in summer 2020, it said late summer, they haven't said when, they will be releasing another productivity app called Microsoft Lists, which they identify as a smart information tracking app. As you can kind of see here, it's got a very similar feel to Planner and tools like Monday.com and Trello and Airtable. And it's this idea of using lists and tasks and automation, if-then logic, to be able to really help you with a number of activities throughout the organization. So it'll be interesting to see how they position it with Planner and To-Do and Task and Project. But just be aware that this is something that Microsoft is going to release in the future. All right, so let's take it to the sweet stuff. Let's go to office.com. So office.com, let's think of this as like your launching point. When you come into office.com, you log in with your Office 365 credentials. This is your web interface of Office 365. You will see all of your Microsoft apps here in your subscription. And then what is also neat about this is that if any time that you're logged into Office 365, one day I'll get used to saying Microsoft 365, but when you log in, this here is called the App Launcher. If you click on those dots, you'll get to a kind of a short pane for you to be able to pick some of the applications that you use.
I think we lost your audio. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I can hear you now. So of course, as soon as I say something, that's when it starts working perfectly. But you're good. Continue on.
Just to steer the audio back to working.
Yeah.
All right, so this is just a quickly recap, just in case you missed something, that this is our app launcher right here. Anywhere in Office 365, if you're working in Excel or Word online, you'll be able to access these from here. And you can go to all your apps and you can choose where you want to go from here. And so for our conversation, we're going to start where I will normally start my day, which is in Planner. So just give it a little type, it'll bring up the app. But I have it already up here. Give you guys a nice view of what Planner looks like. So I log in. This is a board-specific view. So I'll take you through a little bit of the navigation pane just to give you a little bit of an introduction. But for those of you that are not familiar with Planner, this is a task management, project management light, web-based product. There's no desktop app for it. It's simply tasks.office.com. And you can come in here and on your upper left, you'll see that you have this option to create a new plan. And when you do so, and you can create your own boards and you can add people to them. So this isn't just an admin feature, but you go in here and you name your board and you have the choice to make it a public board or a private board. And when you create a private, the owner of that plan will be able to add the members to it. I'm not going to create a plan right now, so I'm just going to take you through just to give you also a heads up. Here, the Planner Hub is just basically a nice view of all of your plans so that you can go in and say, okay, I've got a plan for here. You can see I have a plan for marketing. I have a plan for our WorkSmart Live remote office series and some more organizational based groups and whatnot. Here, my tasks is just a nice, easy way to show you anything that's assigned to you across Planner, and it's a not started, in progress, and completed. All right, so let's hop back into this planner. Let's get to the good stuff. So up here at the top, give you a little familiar with your surroundings, but up here at the top is going to be the name of your board. This little star is neat. You can go ahead and add it to your favorites so that you have quick access to it. I have access to a lot of planner boards, but not everything is relevant right at the tip of my fingers. So I like to keep the ones that are most relevant right here on the left. Up here at the top, you'll see that we default to the board view, but there are also other views to give you some visualization of where things are. So your tasks are sorted by status and organizational buckets and the priority, and it's just another view. Same thing with schedule if you like to see what's happening from a calendar view. We'll talk more about some of the things in here in a second, but over here you can see our lovely little headshots. Now there's a visual representation of who's included in our group, and if you go into this members dropdown, you can kind of see here that Dawn and I are part of this. Now, if I were owner, I would see here that I would have the option to add other people in my Office 365 tenant to this particular board. But since I don't have permissions, we'll move on. One thing I do like to point out to get the most value, be warned, this is your tip. Here in the settings, when you're in Planner, you'll see that there's a section right at the top for Planner. And if you hop into the notifications, you'll have the option to decide how you want to be communicated for Planner notifications. And I like to be notified when anyone assigns me a task and when something is either late or due in the next few days. So I have these checked off, but you can go ahead and uncheck and check to decide how you want to handle things.
So while you point that out, we did have one question come in about notifications for Planner. I think that this might have answered that question, but if it didn't, if you could send me a chat message and clarify, we'll make sure to answer it specifically.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to go back over to the board view. I find this to be the most helpful for how I'm working in my day-to-day, or if I'm looking at the project to kind of see what the tasks are. Here at the top, you'll see these little categories. These are your buckets. So think about your columns are your organizational units, your buckets, and then within your buckets, you're going to have your task cards. So again, this is very similar to Trello if you're familiar with that. But you're going to open your task card and you'll be able to name your task card. This right here will tell you it's a quick I completed task button. It's also on the front of the card. But here you can change the name of your buckets, or excuse me, change which task this bucket is assigned to. You've got your progress options. You can set different levels of priority. You have your start date, your due date, your notes here when you type in your notes. You'll have a checklist option. So these are things that we created. They weren't in here inherently. So simply when you open something that doesn't have a checklist, you'll just see the option to add an item. So we want to make sure that we upload. Let's see, where are we? Demo board. Let's see. Upload. Stay there, and we can check off there. We also have the option to add an attachment, and I'll go through this here a little bit more in a second. Then we also have our comment section, which is really neat. because I find a lot of value. And for a while, I was using it without the comment section and I was just updating my notes. But after a while, if you can see here in this note section, it starts to get long. There's no timestamp option. So comments was a really good solution to that. As you can see, when you submit a comment, here it gives me an idea of who sent it, an idea. It tells you exactly who sent it. It'll also tell me exactly what the notes were, and it'll give me that timestamp. So I want Dawn to know that I like her notes and I'm rewarding good behavior, so she'll do it again. When I send that comment, it will send an email notification as well. All right, anything coming up, Dawn, so far? Any response on the notifications?
Yeah, okay. So thank you to the person who clarified on that. So the question was, is there a way to send reminders or nudges as and when needed instead of automated planner reminders? Do you know if there's any way to customize those settings?
So there's no way to customize those settings in Planner, but there is that tool, Microsoft Flow, which is now been branded Power Automate. There are some ways to do that there, and it would have to be based on some conditions. So we might have to talk offline about that to kind of hone in exactly how to do it. But that would be the way to do it, would be through Power Automate. And that's Microsoft's automation tool. And I'll pop into that here in a second so you guys can get an idea a little bit more of what Power Automate looks like. All right, so this view of Planner is nice because I can come here and I can see things without diving into the details. So I can see over here, we have an event, we have to find our next event by the 26th, and I know this is urgent. And I can come over here and I can see that there are 3 out of 4 checklist items complete, so we're making progress. You also have the option to display some of the things, like here you can see, if I open this particular task, you can see that we have the option selected to show on card. So when I go back to the card, I can actually see what the checklist items are and I can interact from it from there. And when I go to click on completed, it removes it from my view. Same thing over here. This is actually an attachment that is showing on the card. Also, really important for you to know that if you want to see, once you've marked something as completed, it'll come down here into the completed section, and it is hid by default. So you can pop down here and take a look at those. You are able to create a lot of buckets. So I just like to warn people that the more buckets you create, the harder it is to manage because of the horizontal kind of the landscape of it. So I always try to remind people to use some of like very general buckets to kind of keep organization there. Here I want to give you guys a little bit of a tour of kind of interacting with these tasks, because now we've got a good idea of what the tool looks like. So the question is, how do you use it? Where do we branch out into something different?
Real quick.
Yeah.
Can you explain what a bucket is?
Yeah. The buckets are your organizational units of Planner. So here you see I've named them, they're your columns. So I've named this bucket is setup and logistics. This one is the content and messaging. So they're your headings for the column. And this is going to be your categories for how you're going to file your tasks, how you're going to organize them. So if you wanted to create a new bucket, you can do so in in the little add new bucket field. If you wanted to rename them, you can click right on them. And then when you do open your task, you'll be able to see right here, the first thing you see is that bucket field for your categorization. So think of bucket as category or column heading.
And is there an archive for buckets after you've closed them out?
An archive for buckets? That's a great question. I do not know the answer to that. We will definitely follow up. I am interested to know.
I'm making a note to answer this question afterwards. We did have one other question on buckets, and this is a question Marissa and I actually talked about yesterday. Can you make a task or a bucket template for projects you may do over and over?
It is a great question. Unfortunately, with Planner, that functionality doesn't exist. We're thinking about this as more of a stripped down project. I shouldn't say stripped down, a lighter version of a project management software. However, the flow tool, and I'll go ahead and pop over to that now. So I'm going to use my app launcher to take me over to my apps, and I'm going to search for Power Automate. I'm going to open Power Automate.
While you're doing that, Marissa, I'm just going to answer this question that came in real quick. It says, when you finish a task, does the task go away? When you mark a task as completed, it goes into the bottom of the bucket, and it's a field that's hidden, but there's a little arrow that you can click to reopen it. So it's there. It doesn't really go away, but it is there down there at the bottom and hidden, like that.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
My best fan of white. All right, so that's OneNote. We don't want OneNote. We want Power Automate. All right, so Power Automate, formerly known as Flow, is Microsoft's way to help reduce the amount of time it takes to do work. So again, this idea of productivity. How do I do work better, smarter, faster? Automation. So Automate is a lighter tool. This is not something like PowerShell, if you're familiar, if you're more technical, where you need a lot of programming skills. But I will say that if you are an entry-level user to Office 365, then this might take a little bit more time to do. It also is dependent on some things in the back end. So if you have any, it depends on how your administrator has set up your tenant. To what functionality you do actually have in creating some of these things. So these are great questions for your IT team. And if we're your IT team, then we can definitely help you figure out if you have the right permissions. But just to give you an idea that this has a lot of templated flows, and you can search by your app. So if I go in here and search Planner, what I can do, and I find this to be really neat, is that I can already go ahead and say, all right, here's something I know that I want to be able to do. I want to be able to recreate something, or I want this task to be able to trigger this, or to set up that template. You do that through these right here. So you would basically go in and say, okay, I want to use this task or this automation. I'm going to click on it, and it will basically prompt you through some questions, and then it'll set it up, and then you'll have your own little automation. That is something that is set up by user. It's not an across the organization thing. This is really to kind of help you with your productivity. It's definitely a beast of an application. So I say this to let you know the functionality is here, but whether or not it's a basic training use of Office 365, it just depends. Any other questions, Dylan? Was that it?
Not on Planner specifically. So stuff for later.
Awesome. All right. So I wanted to pop in here. This is where we're going to get to kind of showing you a little bit more about that interaction with some of the other applications. So here I am. Dawn created some artwork, and now I need to get a hold of this artwork, and I want to essentially take it and store it into OneDrive so that I have access to it later. So I came in here, and she's already uploaded it. You can see here as an attachment. I'll show you how to upload here in a second. But from here, I can see that she's got the basic ads copy. And I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And I'll show you that when I click on this, it doesn't give me an option to download it. So what I'm going to do is show you that all of your files that get uploaded into Planner are actually going to be available in one place on Planner. So if you come to these three dots, the ellipses up here next to schedule, and you come to files, you click through to that, it'll actually take you to this SharePoint library or documents library that is attached to Planner. And all of the files that have been uploaded through these tasks will show here. So now that I'm here, that's wonderful. Now what I want to do is I want to take, let's see.
And it's the SharePoint for this plan, not all of your plans. So if you have 20 different plans, because you might create a new plan for each project that you're on, like I might create a new plan for each event that I do. There's a folder, there's a file, there's a SharePoint just for that plan.
That's correct. That's a really good clarification, because you wouldn't want all of your planner documents in one place necessarily. If you're like me and you like to share a bunch of documents, it's nice to be able to categorize them by planner, or by plan, I should say. So this is that link. So I clicked the dots, I came over to files, it took me to the SharePoint site. I can see all of these documents, whereas actually, see. Maybe when we deleted it, it deleted it. That should be there. All right. It's not there right now, so let me show you. Let me come back here. We're going to skip that artwork and we're going to come over to down to your registration link, the content plan. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to show this to you from the doing it and then the backwards way. So here we have the add attachment. Back it up. We're going to add an attachment here. We have the option to do a file, a link, or a SharePoint. So if you're used to using SharePoint, you have a SharePoint link, or you've built out SharePoint content, you can easily attach it here. If you have a link and you just want to, hey, there's this webpage and I need to communicate to you, you can use it in the link. A good example of that is that here you can see that Dawn wants to share the registration link with the team. So she went ahead and uploaded the Zoom link here so that if I needed to grab it to share it to a vendor, it's here. I know where it is on the card. So we'll go back here to finalize the content plan. So you can see in my tasks, I have to upload my content plan. So this is actually a file that's in OneDrive. So I'm going to come in here and go into the file. Okay, and now I'm going to go into my OneDrive. As you can see, this little blue cloud is shows you that this is my OneDrive sync. I'm going to go into my event planning. And you can see here that I've got all of these kind of documents. So if I want to go ahead and upload a document, I'm just going to choose the how to Zoom. I know it's not relevant to this presentation, but if I click here and I upload it, it will become a link to the actual OneDrive file here in Planner. It's a nice little feature that it's just when you're sharing files through OneDrive, the great way to think about OneDrive is it's not your massive file server. It is more of an individual file sharing collaboration tool. And what I mean by that is it's great for sending, documents that, for example, like this. We have a content plan that I'm going to make the first draft, and then I'm going to want Dawn to come in here, and I'm going to want her to make some comments. And so, Dawn, do you mind popping into Planner and connecting to the How to Zoom document so that we can jump in?
I do not mind at all. And while I do that, I will note that, so the artwork task on Planner, I think we deleted the file yesterday when we were like doing a test run through this. And while Marissa's been talking, I just opened my own personal OneDrive folder and dragged and dropped it into there. So it's actually in the tab now, which you can see in real time. But I will open the outline, or the content plan.
I'll do that real quick while you log in. So if you come up to the artwork, so now you see that there's the Office 365 copy image here. And now if I pop over here, I should see, ta-da, magic.
Magic.
It is there. And you'll also see the how to Zoom document is also there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's hop back over to the how to Zoom document. All right, so when you share a document with someone, since we're open in Word Online, I'll kind of give you a little bit of an overview of kind of sharing these documents from within the document. So Word Online, Excel Online, PowerPoint Online, all of these apps have a web app and they have a desktop app. And depending on your plan, you may just have the desktop app or the web apps, or you may have both. So regardless of the plan, you have your web apps. And so here, I can come in here and I can share in a couple of different ways. I can share with people I specify. I can share with anybody at WorkSmart with the link, or I can specify specific people. So like if I wanted to do people with the link, it would provide me a link. Specific people, I can just come in here and type in names. And since, you know, if I wanted to send this to Clay, I start typing in his name, and because he's within our Office 365 tenant, again, because of that nice integration, all of his information pops up here. I will also point out a really neat tip is to go ahead and upload a picture into Office 365 so that when you're looking through contacts, it's easier. As you can see, when you're looking at Planner, they use those icons a lot. And if you don't have an image, it'll just put up your initials. So it's nice to have a name or some easy way to identify you from your, essentially your badge. All right, so as you can see, there's this little blue line here. That is to let me know that Dawn is in the document at the same time. So this is across web apps. There's a comments button here. If you click on comments, it'll open a panel so that if I wanted to talk to Dawn, I could do it right here in the comments. I could call her specifically to basically make a kind of call attention to her by using the app and pulling her up. I can add her there. The other way that I can do it is basically in the text. I can kind of just come here and do the same thing. And I can go ahead. This is something I use in Outlook a lot. When you tag someone in Outlook, it will actually add them as a to the recipient list of the email, which is pretty cool. So as you can see, it's pretty much in real time. So as I'm making changes, I can see that Dawn is making changes. And of course, to make things easier, there's certainly the option to allow for the reviewing and kind of marking up tracking changes. So let's see here, if I want to mark it to review, then there's just a lot more functionality that comes out in collaboration. Here, there's the Open to Desktop app. So anything that has a desktop app component will allow you to open it right from the web. It's really important to note this because the web apps don't have the same level of functionality. And this comes up a lot in Excel. So if you're an Excel wizard and you're using your spreadsheet for a lot of different calculations and references, that work is best done in Excel because you're likely not going to have all the functionality online. So just a thought, a lot of times you'll kind of default opening things in online. You can go ahead and open it in the desktop app. What's cool about this is that when I go ahead to open it in Word, it's still going to be collaborative. So I'm going to be able to click here and pull it from, give me 1 second to pull it from my other screen. If I open it here, you'll see the same exact things. You can see that we're working together in here. You can see that Dawn tagged me and we can work together on editing this wonderful outline together in real time. Again, same marker, so you can see that she's here. Different people, they'll show up here across the board, the changes, and you can share from here as well. So a lot of the kind of the same online functionality just in your desktop app.
So one question that came in about desktop versus web was, can you clarify if you need web versus desktop apps to share?
So you would need the web apps in order to share. It's kind of a trick question. All of the subscriptions are going to come with the web app components. So you would just need the Microsoft 365 an apps subscription that would give that to you. And then if you needed to add in other cloud services or other security features or things like that, you would build on from there. Or the desktop apps you would build on from there as well. Clear as mud? Dawn, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Yes, sorry.
Making sure my audio didn't dip on me. Working from home has posed some challenges from time to time, but good.
Yeah.
All right, so that was, let me show you now what that looks like in OneDrive. I think that will help as well. So we went in, we uploaded a document. Here in the apps, if you click on OneDrive, it'll take you directly to the OneDrive for Business that's associated with your account. Every licensed user will get that up to 1 terabyte of online file sharing storage. So it is a really cool tool that just comes with subscriptions. So it's helpful to explore. This is my OneDrive, just to kind of give you an idea. Here I can, in my web apps, I can see the files that I've uploaded. You can see looks pretty standard file structure experience for Microsoft. You'll see everything here. You can see the status of whether it's been shared or if it's private to me. You can also see shared documents, so things that have been shared with me and things that have been shared by me, which is neat. Kind of a one place to look at all the things that have been saved. This down here brings in some SharePoint stuff, so I'm not going to talk about that today. But here in Files, I think this is neat to note that when you do click on these, you do have the option to copy the link. So if you want to share it from here, and I just want to grab the link and send it to somebody, I can do that right from here. I can also hit the share button to share in the same way we did from that document itself. You can download it, delete it. I will remind you, across the Office 365 suite, there is no inherent backup. So even if you set retention policies in your recycling bin, so the things that you delete, even if you make sure that you don't automatically delete in 30 days, those retention policies are a true backup solution. We'll talk more about that here at the end of the presentation, but just keep that in mind that there's a lot of data that's coming into Microsoft 365. So we really need to be thoughtful about backups, and Microsoft's response is use a third-party backup. We'll talk more about that here in a second. You can rename your file. One of the things that I think is really cool is this move to or copy to. It's
hey, Marissa.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna say hey, Marissa, like a gajillion times today, just to keep you on your toes. Before you move on from sharing, we did have one question kind of about sharing. So I wanted to just name that now. So the question was, so can you only share these with people in your Microsoft 365 team? How can you share and collaborate with people outside of your organization?
That is a really good question. And the answer is, it is up to you. So you do have the ability to share files externally in a couple of different ways. However, I will say that your admin can restrict that. So by default, it's probably not a good idea to give everybody in your organization the ability to share anything that's stored in Microsoft 365 externally. So when we talk about setting up the permissions in Microsoft 365, we do recommend locking some of that stuff down. Like at WorkSmart, we do have some restrictions in place that we can work around if necessary. But there's a couple of different things about sharing that I think is cool that you brought up here. And that is the sharing from if I share, I'll just open up an email and show this to you. I don't think I actually have a slide for it, but if I'm, I'll look at all my unread email. If I have an email open and I want to send an attachment, I can do that by attaching a file directly in here. And what I think is really cool about this is if I select a file that is shared online, I have the option to share it as a link, or I can attach it as a copy. So if I want to attach a copy of something that I'm collaborating on internally, and I just want to send it as an email, I can do that right from the email. So there's a couple of different options to share things, but to actually collaborate on the document together, they'll need, your tenant will need to be set up in order for that functionality to happen. All right, let's see. Sharing, I'll come back to the desktop app sharing. I want to show you a little bit more about the web app before I tell you all about how you get OneDrive on your computer. So if I come into, let's see, my event planning folder, I can come in here and I can say, all right, cool, this is my outline. If I wanted to send it, I can share it with Dawn. I can open it right from here. I have the option to open in the browser, the app. So there's a lot of functionality right at your fingertips. Version history is pretty cool because you can go in and see, okay, this is the original. One thing I really like about the version history is that you can pull up a copy. So let's see if I have the example on my desktop still. So here you'll see this is a previous version, and it says it's a previous version. It gives you the option to compare and to restore. So if I wanted to compare, it'll actually show me what was changed based on the revision. A neat little feature. All within all of these things to give you confidence that if you're going to work on something at the same time, that you're going to have all of these options for going back to, whoops, somebody accidentally deleted this, or password protecting files, so that you're making sure that people don't have access to things that they shouldn't have access to. Let's go back into, before I show you OneDrive locally, I want to do one more thing in Planner with OneDrive. Now that we have it, I'll just go ahead and use it here. Okay, now that I'm in Planner again, oh look, things were changed while I was away. Awesome. So that was the change that Dawn made when she updated the task. That's cool that it gives me that little notification. But now if I go to our files, because I want to see that artwork that we uploaded, there we go. Now, I want to have access to this in my OneDrive because I like to reference these images when I'm posting to social, and I'm usually doing things really fast. And Dawn and I are working on, we've got one event a week, and we're working on the events prior to them being launched. So at any given time, we might have 3 or 4 different things open. And so imagine having 3 or 4 different plans open. So while I can come here and grab the information, I like to have the images in my own OneDrive. So what I'm going to do is come into this files, the SharePoint files for all of the plan. And I'm going to come here, and I'm actually going to use this copy to feature. You can also do the move to, but copy to is cool because I can just come in here and I can say, I'm going to choose my OneDrive. I'm going to go ahead, choose my OneDrive. I'm going to go into my event planning folder. I'm going to choose my artwork folder. I'm going to copy it here. So that way, when I pop back over to OneDrive, you'll see that in my artwork folder, I now have that same image. And I didn't have to download it and do anything crazy. I just let myself kind of go in and copy it over, and now we can access it there as well as here.
So on that note, there's a question that I think kind of ties hand in hand with this. And it says, can you have a quick access to folders that somebody else has shared with you as part of your OneDrive folder structure? Or do you always need to go to the shared with me section and click on that link?
can you have a shared, something that's been shared? Let me go to OneDrive.
This one is in the Q&A. If you want me to read it again, I can read it again, but it's also in the Q&A if you want to pull it up and see what she's talking about.
I'm going to go with I don't know, because I'm not 100% confident on this answer. It is a good question.
So I will make a note for the person who asked this question to do a little bit more digging, and we will follow up with you offline.
My previous experience was that you cannot, that it is in, it is because it is shared by them, it is kept in a different place. But is there a way to do it with automate, or is there some sort of filter that allows you to see it better? Is where I don't know. So that's a good, I like that. It's good follow up. We shall follow up on that. Anything else related to sharing, or maybe OneDrive? I'll show the OneDrive local piece here in a second. Anything about the web browser before we move on?
I do have a question that came in more about syncing, but you might get into that a little bit more once we get into this next piece, and if not, I'll bring it up then.
Perfect. All right, so you hear me say desktop app for OneDrive. So let's talk about that a little bit more. All right. Oh, here's a productivity tip before we move on. This is a good thing to share with you guys right here before we talk about desktop apps. OneDrive, you can actually save your attachments from Outlook to OneDrive, which I find to be helpful. You can do this to automatically upload a bunch of things. I like to be a cautious user. Attachments can include, you don't know what is in an attachment. It could be a threat. So I don't do this automatically, but if I know, like if Dawn emails me something and I know that I want to keep it, I actually have to just right click the attachment there in the email, and I can use this upload feature, and I can go ahead and upload it to places within my Microsoft 365 tenant. So that's what you're seeing here are different groups in OneDrive. Oh, it was a neat little feature. All right, so syncing. One of the biggest pain points with online cloud file sharing is having it at your fingertips, which is working locally where most of us do our work. We're right on our computer. We want to be able to open it. We want to be able to edit it, work on it, close it. The other thing is, while internet is getting better and better everywhere, we're less likely to not have internet. There are still cases where you need to access files locally. So OneDrive does have a desktop app. Windows 10 machines are going to come with it inherently, unless it's been removed when kind of removing the bloatware when you're installing your computer. Some tech teams will remove things like that if you don't use it as an organization. So if you don't have Windows 10 or if it's not installed, you just go online and you can do a search for the OneDrive desktop app or the OneDrive sync, and you'll be able to do to install it. And once you've installed it, you'll run it. You'll see here that you have the, give me 1 second, there you go. So you'll have the option to sign in. You won't need to create an account because you already have an account. And then you'll get this, this prompt for the default folder. And this is important because whenever you want to save things, this is going to be the folder that it does that in. By default. So it's really easy to make that section here. And what I mean by that is, let's say I'm going to open Word and I'm going to say, all right, I'm opening Word on my desktop. I'm opening it. I should actually open it. Why not? I'm going to come in here. I'm going to open my document. And when I go to save my document, it'll give me my default OneDrive location, or I can click on and start typing. So it's nice to be able to just have that default location selected. So go ahead and do that when you're doing the setup. And then of course, at any time during the setup, as well as any time moving forward, you'll have the option to select your settings. So if I come down here and I see this little blue cloud, that's the OneDrive cloud. and it's showing me that it's processing changes. If I right click, it brings up the settings menu. If I click on the settings, you'll see here that it shows me on my what account is associated. If I wanted to add an account for some reason, let's say I had 2 accounts, or maybe my personal OneDrive account I wanted to add to my computer. And then you basically just choose the folders that you want to sync. And at any time you can pause sync or stop sync. Is this a good time for that syncing question, Dawn, or do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, probably. So it says, can we get OneDrive to automatically sync to a network drive? This person says they've done this with Dropbox, but didn't know if you could also do it with OneDrive.
To automatically sync to a network drive. You should be able to do this. I would want to do more exploration on the reason why. And let's see if this known folder helps provide more explanation on that. Let me pop over to, actually, I think I have to skip 2. Here we go. So this is automatically saving files from your computer, and it syncs in both directions. So this might be something along the lines of what we're talking about here. But so this is, it used to be called known folder move. It might be similar to folder redirection, but this is, now they call it backup. And essentially you can pick different folders that you want to be able to start your backup. And so essentially this is just like selecting your documents folder to always sync to Office 365. I don't know if that helps.
If that answers your question, cool. And if not, feel free to send me a chat message, and we'll do a little bit more digging and maybe even pull in one of the technical resources, see if we can get a more precise solution.
All right. So another thing that I wanted to point about the OneDrive sync is that, and especially for me, as a marketing manager, I am working with collateral that is internal facing, and I'm working with stuff that I produce for our clients. And all of that is graphic intensive. I have a folder with raw images of staff headshots, and it's probably over 500 raw images. So it's a larger file. And of course, my Surface that I work on has 256 gigs. So it's not that I'm going to run out of space anytime soon, but I don't want to have more on my desktop than I need. So this feature is really cool. It's this file on demand. And when you're setting things up, you can choose what you want to be available when you're online, what is actually downloaded to the device, and then also marking your important folders, so your important files, so that they're always on this device. And you can do that by right-clicking on these. You'll see here on this image the check mark, the green outline check mark versus the cloud, which you don't see here is the solid, which is your important files when you mark those. So if you're basically looking at your file structure, let me bring my file explorer back from my other computer screen. Here's my file explorer. When I see this, I can, if I right click on any of these items, I'll be able to see the option, again, another place to share. I can go ahead and say I want to view it online instead of double clicking and opening it in the app. But here's this always keeping on the device. So this will essentially download the file, and it's going to be available whether I have internet or not. So that's that protection against accessing data that you might need without internet. I don't typically run into issues with internet, but that's because whenever I'm intending to work, I know to have the internet connection. But if you're someone who travels a lot from place to place, and you really just need that that ability to work on something in your hands in that moment, and you may not have internet connection, you're in airport, connection is bad. This is something that okay, I'm going to go ahead and mark these files as being able to get a hold of. All right, look at that. We already went through our productivity tip there. All right. Real quickly, I did want to mention, let's see, back to our planner board, stream. This one is a nice equivalent to something like a Vimeo or Vineyard or YouTube. It's just a video hosting platform that is bundled in your Office 365 subscription. It is a web app. And it's available through the web.microsoft stream. So I click that right from inside. We have that shown on the card, but I just click that right in from the task. So as part of our events, we record these. And so after the event is done, Dawn will have a recording, and then she's going to upload it to stream. And so when we go into this link, we go into stream, it's very similar to how Microsoft is kind of conceptualizing organization. And we'll talk more about this next week in Teams, the concept of channels and teams. So this kind of uses that same idea. You can set up channels. So here at WorkSmart, we have video for a couple different things. All of our WorkSmart lives for internal consumption, all of our internal technical talks, our tech talks will come into here. Our news and updates, our tools and processes, videos related to that will come into here. A nice little organization for it. You could come in, you can see all your videos. You have your option to add it to your channel. You can update details, watch it from here. There's also some, when you click on this, it'll be interesting if this tries to load directly, but it has a transcript with time. So that's kind of neat. Some of the interactivity that you can kind of see. This is what I mentioned about embedding a form into here so that you can kind of make it interactive. I could ask people, what did you think of this event? What do you think our clients will like in the future? And I can gain some real insight when people are just casually going over it to review. And it's got that social aspect where you can do sharing and liking and commenting. You can actually turn some of the commenting or the suggestions. So like here, you can see it's got the more suggestions. You can turn those things off to make it more suitable for your needs. For us, our video is something we're getting more and more into. So we have a lot of lightweight needs right now. But this is perfect for us to be able to, Nathaniel, our HR manager, if he wants to record a demo of our benefits portal, he can upload it here and point us to it. He can embed it into Teams, which we'll show you next week. So it's just a really neat tool, another extension of Microsoft 365 to just bring everything together. So let's see, anything, Dawn, you use Stream a lot. Anything you want to mention about it?
Well, so I have a couple of questions that came in on Stream. Okay. So one of them was, can you download a YouTube video and upload it into your Stream video? The answer for that is yes. Any video that you have, you can upload into Stream. So we actually download our Zoom recordings from this and upload it into Stream. The other question was, can you upload a video from, I'm thinking from here into LinkedIn? I think the answer is no. Is that right, Marissa? Do you know if you can push something from Stream to LinkedIn?
I'm not aware of it.
I believe that the answer is, I'm pretty sure that the answer is no, but depending on what you're wanting to use it for, there are other tools like Zoom where you can do live streaming onto LinkedIn. I think you could also change the privacy settings on, I would guess, at the tenant level so that you could post a link from Stream onto LinkedIn, but I don't think that you could, embed an actual video from Stream. And then one other one that came in, Marissa, do you have anything to clarify on what I just said about LinkedIn?
I will say that you do have the option to grab the embed code. I have not tried it at LinkedIn. I have used embed code other places. The one thing I will say is, and Dawn, I think you touched on this, is that permissions, because of the way that Office 365 is a gate into your data, having restrictions on how you can share things externally, including data within Stream, because it's all under your Microsoft 365 tenant. So you would have to, if you wanted that ability to host it here and to have it public, you'd have to have that functionality set up.
Yeah. Yeah, so another question that came in about Stream was, are you able to pull these into your website? So Marissa handles a lot of our specific website type things. Have you attempted to embed the code from Stream into our website?
The same thing there is the permissions. So it does have the link and it does have the embed code, so it should work with your web development as you would with any other kind of embedding a video. It is just whether or not the permissions allow you to share things externally.
Cool. And then the last question on Stream that I have so far was, if you upload a video to Stream, can you download it later if you want a copy of it? So definitely yes, if you are the owner of that video. I believe that you cannot do that if you don't have permission from the owner. You should have some privacy settings. Marissa, if you wanted to open up one, we could probably demo it. But also with channels, you can have specific privacy settings to different channels as well. So if you didn't have access to that channel, you wouldn't have access to that video, you wouldn't be able to download it.
Let's take a look.
One other cool thing I'll say about Stream while Marissa's pulling that up is that you can do some light video editing within Stream. So a lot of times when I do recordings on Zoom, I'll set them to auto record. So I might not want the first 2 or 3 minutes where I'm talking about how to use the webinar to be in the Stream video, because it's just not something that everybody needs to see. You're not watching it live, so you can't submit questions. But you can trim it and you can shorten it, which is really cool. I use that a lot, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of really kind of neat features just to make video more accessible within the company. And so that's the way I like to think about Stream, is really just enabling video across the company. Not sure how well developed it is for pushing externally. But those are great questions for small business, that if you have a free video platform, how can you leverage it across outside of Office 365? So those we'll follow up on those. But I did confirm with what Dawn was saying, that if you're not the owner of the video, so if you can see, Dawn uploaded the top 11 tips for remote security. If I go to the actions, I only have these 2 options. Whereas if I come into the one where I've downloaded, I do have the option to download the video. I will also say that when you're uploading the video, you can choose multiple owners, different permission levels right when you're uploading that video. So that if you know that you're going to be working with a group of people who are going to need those permissions to download, that's something to be aware of.
Mm-hmm. Can you click on those 3 dots again, Marissa?
Yeah. So this is the 3 dots for me being an owner.
Mm-hmm. So there's a couple of different things. So actually, can you click on the edit pencil? So this is editing this specific video. So within this edit page, you can rename it, you can add a description, and you can also, if you see that permissions tab in the middle, this is where you're going to have permissions, and this is where you're going to be able to add it to different channels. So for me, I add videos to our social channel, which is all internal WorkSmart fun type things. And then I add stuff to our services channel, which is all tech talks and education and all the different things. So I might upload something into my own personal content and then come in and add it to a channel from there. So this is how you would manage that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
And you can see right there where it says to download video as well. So if you wanted to download it again, you could.
And then you have the options for captions and upload subtitles. So a little bit more than what was available in video. Again, they're replacing video with Stream. So if you've never used video before, pretend like it's not there on your app offering. All right, well, let's take you back to the presentation for a second. Let me make sure there's nothing else I wanted to.
All right. Welcome everyone to today's WorkSmart Live.
Look,
You
John,
can hear the video of the stream. It's already started. Were you going back to the slide deck, Marissa?
Yeah, I'm back at the slide deck.
Okay, so real quick before you go back into subscription. So we did have a question about bringing all of your tasks together. So I was wondering if you could pop over to the To-Do app and just show how your planner tasks and your Outlook calendar tasks pull into one space.
Yeah, that's actually a really great thing to kind of end on is now that we've got all these things, how do you make sense of it? Certainly come to Planner and you can go to the My Tasks, like I said, to see things that are all assigned to you so you can kind of get a feel for things. But what Microsoft has also done is create more of a personal view, the individual view, and that is through To-Do. So I'm going to take you over to To-Do. Maybe not. Again. It's here. Ta-da. So To-Do is this exactly like it sounds. It is your single pane of glass for what's coming to you, whether it's in your Outlook tasks. So as you can see, I've got a really overdue item about expenses for budget tracking. This is all of my Outlook tasks. If you use those, this assigned to you is about Planner. So it brings all of your Planner items in here. This shows kind of things that are coming up and coming, but you can also look at what you flagged as important. And then of course, there's My Day. And so this is how you kind of flag things to be what's important, and kind of, it's just another way to visualize the data within Microsoft 365 so that you can focus on what's important and stay organized. Again, that idea of how do I do more productively? I think that's really, there's this kind of concept of lists. This is not, I would say this is kind of a basic feature just to create, Microsoft advertises some things like if you want to write a grocery list or like a don't forget this list, but they are coming out with their new lists app. So I'm not sure if this is a highly used feature of it, but what I do find cool is that you can kind of take your tasks from Outlook and you can take your activities from Planner and kind of mesh them together and decide after looking at it all, what do I want to focus on today? Any questions about any of the apps before I start to talk to you about the more of the business end of Office 365?
We had a question come in about To-Do and tasks just now. It says, do flagged emails get treated as tasks?
Do flagged emails get treated as tasks? They do not, but they do show up here if you choose to do so.
So I would think that if by choosing to do so, there's probably a setting you need. Okay. There's a setting you need to enable.
Yes, so it's essentially the first time you log into To-Do and you go into flagged email, you'll have the option to go ahead and any kind of flagged email will come here.
Gotcha. We had some other more general questions come in.
Yeah.
One was, is there a user manual available? And that came in around when we were talking about Planner. So there's a ton of content available through Microsoft, but if you don't know what you're looking for, it can be a little overwhelming. There's a lot. So Marissa, do you have any quick tips for how to find information maybe that might be helpful?
Yeah, you YouTube is a great place to start. Microsoft has a lot of really good short demo videos. So that's a nice place. I will include some of my favorite blogs. I can give you those links, Dawn, so we can send those out with the recordings. We are also going to be doing launching some videos of kind of breaking down some of these kind of how-to Office 365 basics and things like that, so we can have offer our own platform. But one of the things I do want to point out is that there's actually, if you come into this dashboard, there's a tips and tricks section that will they will add things here. So I like to kind of keep my eye on here occasionally just to kind of see what's available. It's really, like Dawn said, there's just so much functionality that's there that some of these basic tips are just really good nuggets to make your familiarity with the Office or the Microsoft 365 products just a little bit better, a little bit deeper.
Okay, so last kind of miscellaneous question is actually about Teams, but I figured we could address it now anyway. And we'll actually probably do some of this stuff when we talk about Teams next week, but it says, is there a way to post an Excel sheet to Teams that is read-only, even for someone who is an owner of a team, not just a member, which I know is very specific and technical.
Yeah, so Teams permissions can get a little messy because it is using kind of the SharePoint side of things. And when you add things into a channel, you are giving people permission to those files. So the best way to avoid that would be to password protect any type of, if you're gonna, WorkSmart, we have a services guide. It's an Excel sheet that just kind of lists all of our services and what they are, brief description. And we have that document locked. It's available on Teams, but it's something that you can't, nobody can edit. That was kind of our workaround for it. But we can kind of take permissions for Teams offline because that is such an admin heavy thing. We won't exactly cover a ton of team permissions next week, although we kind of will mention when things are out of your control or not. What else do you see?
That's it in the feed for now. So carry on.
Yeah. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an intro into subscriptions just from the idea of, if you're familiar with Office 365, what they were named previously, they've got new names now. So our Business Essentials subscription, this is your cloud services and apps. So this is things like your Exchange Online, your Teams, those are your services. And then your online apps like Word Online, Excel Online, Planner, all those things. That's now been rebranded to Microsoft 365 Business Basic. Business Premium, which is web apps, cloud services like email and OneDrive, and the desktop app. So if you want to be able to have that license to allow you to install the full-fledged Office suite, you'll have the licensing to do so. That's now the business standard. This down here is actually not, so this is not named properly. That's a typo, but this was, I'm going to have to now correct myself on this because I don't remember the name that this replaces. I think this is your E3, but I'll double check. But this is now considered to be your business premium licensing. So if you have the E3 prior, you'll recognize the $20 per user per month. The idea behind this now is that there's not a business platform. There's not an enterprise platform. It's a business platform, and then you have your advanced security functionality to it. Your Office 365 Business, which was essentially just your Office suite licensing and your web apps. So nothing included like email services. That's now just the Microsoft 365 apps for business. And then they've got one version for enterprise. And that includes some of the additional apps or the products within Office, like I believe it's Publisher. Don't quote me on that. I can't, they made some changes. I believe Access is now part of them both. But as you can see, they've now basically broken these up into, we've got Microsoft 365 business plans that include these services, maybe some security, and maybe some desktop apps, as opposed to your app plans, which are specific to your Office suite and your web apps. A little bit of a different way of thinking. But now when you think about Microsoft 365, it's the whole umbrella of all of the Microsoft 365 offerings. So that's all of your security settings. That's all of your security services. It's going to be things like Visio, all the things that you can add on will no longer be Office 365, but will all be branded as Microsoft 365. The last thing that I wanted to mention without being on my soapbox is that the data within Microsoft 365, the more you add, the bigger your risk becomes. And so the way we reduce that risk is by making sure we have the right security measures in place. And one of those is a third-party backup. Microsoft says in their terms that they do not offer a backup protection. They anything that they protect themselves from is if their infrastructure were to break and they were to lose your data. But if a user goes in and maliciously deletes or accidentally deletes data and it's unrecoverable from retention policies, your data is encrypted by ransomware, you don't have the option to go to Microsoft and ask them to restore that data. Instead, we recommend a third-party backup, but be cautioned that not all third-party backups are the same. Some third-party backups will just hit your email. So it's important to look for an Office 365 backup that will also back up your planner, your groups, your OneDrive folders, because not every backup will do that. And then multi-factor authentication. If you've joined WorkSmart Lives recently, this is not a new topic, but it is a really easy win. It is included with Office 365 inherently. And so what it essentially does is you turn on a setting that requires a second form of authentication across your users, so that if somebody does get their credentials and tries to log into the web, because it's interfacing. So if they get the credentials, all they no longer need to connect to your network. They can just go to Office 365 login. But if they log in successfully the first time, they'll have that second form of authentication that they'll have to prove that they are who they are. So it cuts off their access right there. There are some additional subscriptions you can add to make it more robust. Something like conditional access, which essentially, if you're going to be in the office, your device will be smart enough to know not to prompt you for a second form of authentication, because if you're connected to your domain, you probably are who you say you are, as opposed to if you're at Starbucks, it could be someone at a table over who's up to no good. So multi-factor authentication is an easy win. Third-party backup is a pretty easy win. You just got to find the right product. Those are kind of, that's all that we had to cover for today. Dawn, do you see any other questions that might be lingering? And no, this is just such invigorating content.
It is. It's exciting. I don't have any questions in the queue right now, but y'all are absolutely welcome to continue to ask questions. And one point I wanted to make again, because I'm just going back on a question that was in the queue about to-dos and tasks in Outlook and Planner and all the things. So you might have to-dos and tasks in a lot of different ways, and assignments and Planner. So if you have a task in Outlook, it doesn't pull into Planner. That was a question that was part of that. But the way that you do bring that all together is in the to-do app. So if you want to see everything that's on your plate, all of your assignments in Planner, all of your tasks in Outlook. Anywhere else you might have had something come up, to-dos is where you're going to go to do that. But to speak specifically to that, no, what your Outlook task doesn't like populate onto your planner board.
No, this is right here is where you would see this. So you can see that I updated my task, so I can see it here in my day. I prioritized it for my day. And then if I come in here to what's assigned to me, I should be able to come in here and I can mark these tasks as important. And I can add to my day. I can push the due date. I can mark as completed. And so the more that I mark things as my day and important, then I can kind of start to see, all right, what are the things that I need to prioritize? It's kind of, for me, this is a replacement to the way I use my notebook. We'll touch on a little bit on OneNote next week, which will also is another way to visualize notes. It's not as great as to-dos in my opinion, but this is really that nice single pane of glass to see what's happening in some of the different other task management right here at your fingertips.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, since we don't have any other questions that are in the queue, that's it for today. So I hope you all enjoyed today. I hope you learned a lot. I know there's a lot of content here. Marissa, you did an awesome job running through all of it. Thank you so much for your time. And you can join us again next week, because we're going to be talking about Teams, and Teams is sort of like your hub for bringing all of the collaboration and communication that you're doing onto one umbrella, one app to rule them all. So you can see your planner within Teams, you can see OneNote within Teams, you can move some stream stuff into Teams. There's a lot of stuff that you can do with Teams in addition to the things that we talked about today. So I hope that you join us. And I think I see a question that popped up. Oh, nope, that was just a thanks. So never mind. You're welcome. So we hope that you join us next week. And then after that, we have 2 more events in the WorkSmart Live Remote Office series, and that is the home office hardware solutions. So if you're thinking about maybe working from home long-term and you need a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more mobility with your devices, join this webinar. It's going to be great. We're going to be talking about some really user-friendly, easy, lightweight, mobile hardware solutions with our friends from Lenovo. We'll be talking about laptops and portable monitors and all the things. So join that. And then we're going to wrap this whole series up. This is going to be our last event in the remote office series. But don't be too sad, because we're going to start a new series a little bit later on. But this last event called Back to the Future, we're going to kind of recap some of the things that we've talked about, and then talk about some things that you should be thinking about maybe for later on, like maybe once you get back to the office, or maybe with your long-term remote office plan. So join us for all 3 of those if you like. And that's it. That's all that I have. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and we hope you have a fabulous day.